Greetings. I'm sorry I haven't been in touch lately, but I was away, werewolf hunting in North Wales. But don't worry, I didn't shoot Larry. I'd like to begin by thanking Mort for agreeing to work with me, and for all his helpful advice as a new narrator. If you're a regular listener to the Mortis Media channel, as I am, I'm sure you've been engaged by Mort's warm and cheerful voice. Well, I can confirm he truly is a prince of a guy. I'd also like to thank all of you who have newly subscribed, and I thought the best way to do that was to give you a tale I used to tell as a storyteller. I found Elias in the Draug by the Norwegian Jonas in Roald Dahl's Book of Ghost Stories. Yeah, that's right, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory guy. The book is probably in your local library. You know, your local library? You've been there, you know where it is? And you should check it out, as it features some truly creepy old ghost stories. I've had some personal experiences with Draugs, so this one got to me. So, without further ado, Elias and the Draug. Once upon a time, and back in the day in Norway, Elias and his wife Karen lived on a lonely island said to be haunted. Elias worked as a fisherman, and when he was away, Karen was frightened by strange noises and disembodied cries, which appeared to have no natural or wholesome source. Elias and Karen had 6 children in 7 years, but he still managed to put aside a little money, and after the 7th year, was able to buy his own boat and fish for himself instead of working for another man. One day, when Elias was fishing for halibut with a harpoon, he suddenly came upon a huge seal sunning itself on a rock along the shore. Instinctively, Elias plunged the long, heavy harpoon into the back of the seal, just below its neck. Instantly, the seal stood up, tall as the mast of a ship, and glowered at him with its bloodshot eyes, its mouth twisting into a malignant and venomous grin. Elias was so frightened he almost lost his wits, jumping back as the beast disappeared into the sea, leaving a trail of bloody foam behind it. Later that afternoon, Elias found the shaft of the harpoon broken off below the iron barb on the shore. He soon forgot about the strange incident. One night, before bed, he went down to the shed where he kept his boat to secure it for the night. But as he turned up his lantern, he saw, in a tangle of nets in a dark corner, a face that resembled the features of the seal he had harpooned. The face gave him an evil leer, its mouth opening wider and wider and wider and wider and wider, and then it fled, a harpoon projecting from its back. One foggy morning, as Elias sent out to sea, he heard a voice call to him from the nearby rocks. "Take care, Elias, and beware when you get your femboring." A femboring being a much larger Viking-style fishing boat. But it would be 11 years, when Elias's eldest son Brent was 17, before the fisherman was able to buy his femboring. He had his eye on one particular boat, which a shipwright in a nearby port had finished and tarred that very fall. So one day, just before Christmas, Elias and Karen and all of the children sailed from their island to trade Elias's old boat for the larger vessel, paying the difference in price with some coin he had managed to save. When it came time to sail home, the family brought Christmas supplies with them, including a little keg of brandy, from which Elias and Karen had a few drops. perhaps a few too many. They had 50 miles of sea before them. Brent sat in the stern, Karen and the second son at the halyard, Elias at the tiller, and 2 younger sons, aged 12 and 14, taking turns at bailing. It was not long before a storm blew up, but the new boat rode the waves like a seagull and didn't take in any water. After a few minutes, Elias became aware of another vessel, which had appeared abreast of them. He thought it strange he hadn't noticed them before, but it appeared that they wanted to race. If it's a race they want. Elias unfurled the sails. As the darkness took control, the storm increased, the other boat drawing nearer to them and keeping pace. Waves began to crash over the femboring, and the branding was passed around, as now they were both fighting cold and wet. An eerie phosphorescent light flashed around the strange rival boat, allowing Elias to make out the forms of the crew, with their oilskin caps, but they had their backs turned towards him, and he could not see their faces. It was at this moment a gigantic breaker swept over them, and as the boat fought the sea, Elias thought he heard fiendish laughter, which was coming from the other boat. Then Karen was heard to cry, "My God, Elias! The sea has taken Martha and Niels!" They were the 2 youngest children, aged 9 and 7. "Hold fast, Karen, or you may lose more," was all Elias said, even though his heart was breaking. The storm increased, and Karen and the children were forced to grab the yardarm to keep from being swept overboard. The rival boat, which had disappeared, now returned. Glimpsing them through the spray, Elias thought the crew seemed more like specters than human beings. They spoke not a word, but when another huge wave swamped the femboring, Elias thought he heard the same nefarious and demoniacal laughter he had heard earlier. And when the boat finally righted itself, he found they had lost his son Anton and his wife Karen, washed overboard into the benighted sea. Elias could hear her agonized cries, heard her call his name, until her voice was drowned out by the wind and wave. But all he could do was mutter, "In Jesus' name, in Jesus' name." Elias wanted to die with her, but knew he had to save his 3 remaining sons. He sat at the tiller, his hand numb with cold, and stared towards their mysterious rival, where a hulking figure sat, like Elias himself, at the tiller. Beneath its oilskin cap, the shaft of a large harpoon projected from the back of its neck, and Elias understood he was looking at the Draug, a malignant, supernatural being which sailed a phantom boat crewed by men who had died at sea and who had never received a Christian burial. Elias knew he was doomed, for he who sees the Draug must invariably perish. But if he could save his sons. The 2 boats, one from this world, one from the world of the dead, raced through the night. At around 4 a.m, Elias thought he saw the white cliffs of an approaching island, and then realized it was a colossal wall of churning water, the most stupendous wave he had ever seen during a lifetime at sea. There was no way the boat could survive. "There goes your femboring, Elias," the Draug cried. And then the wave hit. The boat capsized. Elias managed to clamber onto the keel and help Brent and 12-year-old Martin up, where they crouched on their rocking platform, shivering with cold. Martin died at dawn. Elias's hair had turned completely white. He told Brent of how he had wounded the Draug with the harpoon and that it had taken its revenge. He then gave Brent his silver watch, and with the cry, "Hold fast, Brent, I'm going to Mother," "In Jesus' name," Elias threw himself backwards into the sea. The sea became calm. The Draug had had its revenge. Slowly the keel floated to shore, and Brent realized he had landed on the beach below home, but he was too weak to walk. He began calling for help, and after a time his cries attracted the attention of an orphan girl who Elias and Karen had taken in and who lived with them as a servant. She had not gone with them on the expedition to purchase the new boat, and so lived. The girl ran down to the beach and helped Brent home. He spent the entire winter under her care, and when he had fully regained his health, he married her and left the island, taking out a homestead in the forest, miles from the sea. His hair had turned completely white, even though he was but 18 years of age, and he never went near water again, even a tiny brook or pond, without a shudder. Please drop a like and consider subscribing for more tales of Draugs, night floaters, and the unspeakable.